Welcome. This is the first video in what is going to be my next collection of 30 days videos, and these videos are going to particularly focus on functions in JavaScript. What we're going to do is we're going to do what I've similarly done in another video playlist where I did JavaScript arrays in 30 days. This one is going to be to where we start with some functions that we're going to continually save each day so that then we can reuse those functions. And the process is going to be to where we're going to have these what I call single responsibility functions, and we're going to be able to use them in a higher order capacity. We're going to have some that are curries, some that are monads, some that are the functors, many different combinations of functions. And we're going to see how it is that we're able to use functions in the way that they were meant to be used in JavaScript. Now, what I have here is I've got a great concept that has really helped me to learn and comprehend, and I got this from Codesmith and Will Sentence, and the concept is great. You'll see how I do it. Codesmith is great. It's a wonderful group of people that are for the whole program is for those who are looking for an introduction into boot camps. If you're somebody that is looking for that type of place, wanting to go down that avenue of doing some type of a boot camp for JavaScript or full stack, any of that, Codesmith is the place to go. So this whole concept that you're seeing in front of you right now is how I learned really in depth about how functions work. So I'm going to try my best to explain functions and how they work in detail, I guess you could say. And this might get completely transformed in some way, as we go on. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to start by introducing three functions that we're going to kick it off with. And as I said, they're very, at the beginning here, they're going to be very single responsibility type functions. And most of these I got from Front End Masters, a course that Douglas Crawford gave, and he's really good at explaining functions. So there's a whole group of functions that he works with, and I've wanted to take his concepts and his ideas and mold them together with the teachings of the Codesmith program. So what we want to do first is we want to go ahead and let me pop a function up here. Is that our first function is going to be a add function, and it's going to take in two parameters, A and B, and it's going to return A plus B. So when we actually call the function add and we pass in two arguments, 3 and 4, let's go ahead and see how that works. Now, you're going to have to excuse me a little bit because I like to do this in a writing fashion. So I've got a tablet, and it makes it much easier than me trying to drag around anything that might be from this graphical program that I'm using. So let me grab my pen here, and let's go through this process of working with this add function. So as we know, it's top to bottom single layer for a function for JavaScript and its execution. And so the first thing that we see that the JavaScript engine sees when it starts this is that it goes down and it sees this function add. Now, it doesn't do anything with this besides the fact that it just stores it. And what it does is it stores it in this in the global memory. And so what we now have is that we have this add Look at my writing. Hopefully in 30 days it'll get better. We have this add function. And right now, if you were to go into your console, any browser console, and you were to write out this function add, and then you just typed in add, it would return this whole function. This whole function right here would be the value that it would return. It's not until we get down to this next part where we add, and we know that it's actually a function because we have the two parentheses, which says that it's going to invoke this function. When it does so, it is going to go over and it is going to go into the execution context here of the global memory. And also we have to pay attention to the call stack. So let me see if I can continually explain this. So in here, in the global execution context, is that we are going to have this add function. And this add function, oh my, is 3 and 4. So we're still in the global execution context, but now we're going to put onto the call stack add 3, 4. Now, so when we do that, we're going to have this execution context, new environment. And in the side of this environment, we're just going to have it to where we're going to store, and then we're going to, I guess you can say, query, and then we're going to go ahead and do the calculations. So when we do this is that we see we have an A and a B. And so A and B are going to be replaced by 3 and 4. So in here we could say that A is 3, B is 4. And inside of here what we're doing is we're returning A plus B. So if we do that, we can see that we're going to have 3 plus 4. And if we add those together, we have 7. And so what we're going to be doing here is that this 3 plus 4, 7. 7 is the return value. And the return value is what we're going to take, and it is now going to be 7. So add 7, the value is going to be returned to add, and now add is going to be 7. Once that happens, is that this add gets completely wiped away, and then we're back down into the global call stack. So this is going to be, so again, you know what, in future videos is that we're going to be able to take this and we're going to be able to use this in another function. And so it's going to help us to where we're able to write more concise functions, use these functions as higher order functions that return values for us. So, you know, this particular function will be a return value inside of another function. Let me go ahead here and let's pop that one off. Let's add another one here. Let's go ahead and take that one out, and let's go ahead. Now this one is just going to be repetitive for you. We're just going through the motions. But again, we've got one that's very similar. It's got one particular responsibility, and that is to do multiplication. So this one's really no different besides the fact that we're doing multiplication. So first thing that JavaScript is going to do is that it's going to take and it's going to add, it's going to take the function multiply, and it's going to add it. Let me do this. So multiply, mul is this called, is that it's going to go into the global memory and it's going to be the whole function. Everything here, that's the whole function. Now this one I didn't put the actual call to mul, but it's the same as it is with add. So what we're going to do is that we're going to actually invoke mul with, let's say, 4 and 3. So over here, we are going to set ourselves up an execution context, and that is going to be for mul, and it's going to be for 4 and 3. So what we're going to do first is that we're going to do some substitution, and A is going to be 4, B is going to be 3, and then once we actually do some calculations here, we have 4 times 3, and that is going to return 12. So the return value is going to go back up, and now in place of the whole function, mul is now going to be 12. And at that point in time, because we returned out of the function, we return back to the execution context environment, the global environment in the call stack, and we're done. So now multiply in global memory is 12, and it's no longer the function. Let's see one more that we're going to put together for today. Let's get rid of that one. Let's get rid of that one. And here we go. Another simple one, same thing. All we're doing is that we're just going to go here and add ourselves another one. And so the first thing we're doing is that as JavaScript goes through, single-threaded, is that it's going to see this function sub. And so it's going to say we got sub, and it's a function. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to call sub with 10 and 5. So over here, we have a local execution context. And right here, we're going to start doing some substitution. So A is going to be 10. B will be 5. And then it tells us that we're going to return A minus B. So that means we're going to take 10, we're going to minus 5, and that is going to give us 5. So our return value is going to go out, go back to sub. It's no longer going to be the whole function. It's going to be return value, which is 5, and we get this thing right back off the stack or back into the global. So that is 3 functions that we have that we're gonna carry on through each day. And as we build out these functions, we're going to start to put them together in a way to where we're able to allow functions to return values that then can be used inside of other functions as those values. So we'll see those as we continue on, but this is a starting point for day 1, being able to just have some single responsibility functions, see how they work as the JavaScript engine goes line by line and what it does at each step of the process. And then once we get into calling the function, how we substitute the parameters in the function for the arguments that are passed in, and then how we return the value back out, and then what happens in the call stack. So hopefully my diagrams and drawings will get better, and hope they're readable for this first one. So I'll be back for day 2, writing more functions and eventually getting to a point to where we are putting them together for composability. Thank you.